The trap in the woods. Jace walked slowly through the thick forest, his boots pressing softly on the moss-covered ground. He was careful with every step. The air smelled of damp leaves, and old woodbirds called above in short bursts, and small creatures rustled in the bushes nearby. It was early morning, and the mist still floated low between the tall trees. The kind of morning he liked most, when everything felt quiet and hidden from the world. He reached the old trap he had built 3 days ago. It was made from flexible ropes and trigger wires and baited with smoked meat. He had set it hoping to catch a wild runner beast for food and fur, but what he saw today made his hands freeze mid-step. The net had been triggered. It hung between two trees, swaying slightly. Something was inside it, curled and tangled. The form was not like any animal he had ever seen. It was slim, glowing faintly with a silver-blue light and shaking slightly like it was cold or scared. Jace moved closer very slowly, one hand near his belt knife. Not to attack, but in case the thing inside was dangerous. As he stepped near, he heard a soft voice whisper in a language he didn't know. It sounded like begging or crying. The creature lifted its head just enough for him to see her face. It was a girl, not a human girl, but clearly female. Silver skin shimmered like moonlight. Her eyes were large, bright, and wet with fear. Her hair was like thin strands of glowing fiber, and small wing-like shapes folded against her back, torn and dirty. She looked at him as if he were death itself. Jace blinked, unsure what to do. He raised his hands to show he was not a threat, but she flinched anyway. Pulling back into the net, more tightly, she made a sound again, this time. Just one word that sounded like Naka, or maybe Naka. Her voice cracked and soft. He slowly reached for the net, careful not to shake it. She tensed every muscle, ready to scream or strike. But when he touched the rope, he spoke softly. Not sure if she could understand. Easy now. I am not going to hurt you. She stared but didn't move when he began cutting the rope gently with his knife. Her eyes widened more, but she did not resist. After a few minutes, the net loosened and her body dropped weakly into his arms. She was lighter than he thought and shivering. He carried her to his small forest shelter, a cabin made of scrap metal and wood, hidden deep in the trees. The inside was warm from a low fire and smelled like herbs and cooked roots. He laid her on a soft mat and covered her with a blanket. She did not fight, but she kept her eyes on him, watching every movement. Jace stepped back, giving her space. He placed a bowl of clean water near her and some soft bread he had made earlier. She did not touch it at first, just stared at him like she was waiting for him to strike or yell, or worse. Hours passed. The sky turned orange, then dark blue. He stayed near the fire, pretending to read a book. But his eyes kept glancing at her. She had not run away, not even tried, but she hadn't eaten either. At some point in the night, she sat up very slowly. She picked up the bread, smelled it and took a small bite. Then looked at him again, eyes filled with confusion, like she was trying to understand why he was being kind. He spoke again softly. I won't hurt you. I don't know who you are or what you are, but you're safe here. She tilted her head, trying to make sense of his words. Maybe she understood some of it, maybe not. But she lay down again, this time without shaking. Jace sat there listening to the quiet crackle of fire. The forest outside still alive with soft sounds. But inside the cabin, only the breath of two beings filled the air. One human, one unknown, and both unsure of what the next morning would bring. In that moment, he realized something. He had caught a living, intelligent creature, not a beast, not food. And now he had to decide what kind of man he was going to be. The net was never meant for someone like her. And maybe, just maybe, this trap was not the end, but the strange beginning of something neither of them could yet imagine. The mistrust. Kayla woke before the sun. Her body still sore and weak, her wing joints aching from the trap, her ankle wrapped in soft, cloth smelled of herbs she did not know where she was. But the room was warm. A soft fire crackled quietly in the corner, and the human sat with his back turned, carving something from wood. She sat up slowly, the blanket falling off her shoulders. The human did not move. He just said in a low voice, "You slept long, that's good." She tensed her muscles, ready to run or fight, but her leg would not let her. It throbbed and burned with each small movement. Her heart beat faster, eyes scanning the cabin. The door was shut, tools hung from walls, weapons in the corner. She felt trapped again, not by a net this time, but by walls and kindness. She did not trust. The human turned around and placed a bowl near her. His voice soft like the wind before rain. "Eat. If you're hungry, it's just soup from roots and wild leaf. No poison, I swear." She looked at him, then at the food, and then back at him. She did not touch it. She only clutched the blanket closer. Her silver eyes narrowed like a scared animal. Jay sighed and moved to the far side of the room. He picked up his wooden carving again and started shaping it with careful hands. The air between them was thick with silence, only broken by the fire and the occasional crack of wood. Kayla kept staring at him, not because she was curious, but because she had to know if he would attack, if he would change suddenly, if he was like the others she had heard about from her elders. Humans, cruel, loud, greedy, unpredictable. He looked different though his clothes were, patched, his beard short but rough, his eyes not wild but tired, like he had seen too much and carried something heavy in his chest. "Why did you not sell me?" she asked in a sharp voice. Jace blinked and looked up. He opened his mouth to answer, but no, words came right away. Finally, he set the carving down and said, "Because you looked afraid." She stared hard at him, still not believing. He added quietly, "I've been afraid too." Before, Keela felt her breath catch. She didn't know why those words hit something inside her, maybe because she expected threats, not honesty, but still, fear crawled under her skin. She had seen what humans did. They hunted the sky flyers for their wings, for their glowing skin, for trade. They called it science or profit. But to her, people, it was pain and loss. She had flown too far from the mountain, was separated during the storm, and fell through the forest. She landed near his trap, and everything after that felt like a blur. Her fingers touched her wing, gently bruised, not broken, but close. Her breath shaky, her thoughts louder than ever. She looked at the bowl again, then back at him. He was looking down now, focused on carving again, like he truly didn't care what she did. Was it a trick or something else? She whispered something, in her tongue, a quiet word that meant test or trial, then took a sip from the bowl. The taste was earthy and strange, but not bad. Her body welcomed the warmth. He looked up at her and smiled, but not in a proud way. It was small, like sunlight trying to pass through clouds. Keela finished half the bowl and placed it aside. She did not say, "Thank you, not yet," but she did not turn away from him now. She asked slowly, in broken human tongue, "Why? You here in forest? Alone?" He paused and leaned back against the wall, eyes on the ceiling like searching for memories. Got tired of people. Maybe they got tired of me too. Either way, I stayed here, no noise. No lies, just trees and wind and old books. Kayla did not answer, but a part of her felt strange. She understood that feeling too. Hiding, flying far away, never fitting into the world below or above. She leaned back too still, holding the blanket, still alert, but a little less scared than before. He said softly, "I can help fix your wing if you want. I have supplies. Not perfect, but clean." She did not reply, but she didn't say no either. He moved closer, just a little, waiting for her to run or shout, but she only watched as he gently lifted the edge of her wing. His fingers, careful, as if touching something sacred, cleaned the wound with warm water, dabbed it with leaf paste, and wrapped it lightly. She winced once but did not pull away. When he finished, he looked at her and said, "There you go, warrior girl." She looked at him sharply at that name, and he raised his hands with a smile. "Just a guess from the way you glare." A soft breath escaped her lips, not quite a laugh, but close. Then night came again, and this time she lay on the mat with the blanket pulled close. Eyes still open, but not because of fear, because now she was thinking, who was this man really? And why did part of her wish he wouldn't leave? She finally spoke. The rain began gently that morning, soft drops tapping on the metal roof above the cabin. Kayla opened her eyes to the sound. Her wing felt less sore. Her ankle still hurt, but the sharp pain had faded. Her body was healing slowly, and maybe that meant it was safe to rest here for a little longer. She sat up and saw Jay sitting near the fire again this time, with 2 cups in front of him, steam rising from both. He looked at her and pointed to one. "Hot root tea. Helps with pain." No trap, no trick. She did not move for a moment, then slowly reached for the cup, her fingers brushing his by accident. He didn't flinch, but she did, pulling back just slightly, her heart still unsure what to feel. She sipped the tea. It was bitter and strange, but it made her chest warm and her head clearer. The fire popped softly beside them, and for the first time they sat in silence without fear. Jace glanced at her wing and nodded. "You heal fast," he said. "Not surprised, though. You look strong." Kayla tilted her head, her voice quiet. Not strong enough yet for many human words, but she tried. "Name you." Jace smiled just a little. "Jace," he said, then pointed to her. "You." She hesitated, a long pause like the word was stuck in her chest. Then she spoke it slowly. "Kayla." He repeated it gently. "Kayla." She blinked once. Not used to hearing it in a human's voice. Not used to it sounding soft instead of shouted or commanded. She looked around the small cabin. The walls covered in strange tools, maps, old machines, parts of tech she didn't understand or trust. Yet one small screen on the wall blinked with lights showing something in human language. Maybe signals or weather. Jace followed her gaze and said, "I used to work with tech outposts and mapping units, then got tired of orders, came out here. Alone. Been here 3 years now. Just me and the woods. And sometimes weird dreams." Kayla didn't know what dreams meant in his voice, but she felt something heavy in those words, like a weight he carried that no one saw. She pointed to one of the blinking screens. "Danger." She asked in broken speech. Jace shook his head. "Just weather and movement sensors. Helps me know what's coming sometimes." She looked at the screen a bit longer, then turned back to him, her voice a little firmer. "Now. Other humans hunt." Jace sat up straighter when she said that, his eyes locked on hers. "You mean now? Like recently?" She nodded. "They come. They take winged ones. Sell, break. Hurt for trade." His jaw clenched. "Who they? Government black market mercs." She didn't know the words, just said, "Bad ones with red sign." He paused. Red sign meant something. He remembered it from past contracts. A group that captured rare alien species for private collectors. No rules, no mercy. Jace stood and walked over to the bottom wall, opening a hidden panel behind old wood. He pulled out a long case. Inside was an old plasma rifle, still clean, still ready. "If they're near here, they're gonna regret it," he muttered, then looked back at Kayla, softer. "They won't get you, not while I'm here." She stared at the weapon, then at him. Something in her chest twisted, fear and trust battling again. But she didn't move away this time. She asked slowly, "You not take me to base or trade?" Jace laughed. Not a mocking laugh, but short and honest. "Never wanted company before you dropped into my trap. Didn't plan to make friends. Especially not glowing winged ones." She looked down, thinking about his words. Her fingers touched her chest lightly and she whispered, "My people think I dead now. Storm separated me. I fell from sky, Jace. Knotted storms here are brutal. You're lucky you didn't fall on rocks or worse." She looked at him again, eyes serious, not glowing now, just quiet. "You saved me. Why?" He didn't answer for a moment, then sat back down and looked into the fire. His voice low. "Maybe I needed saving. To..." Keela didn't understand the full meaning, but she felt it. She felt something in him was broken, just like something in her was scared. The rain grew louder outside, the wind stronger, branches brushed the walls. But inside the fire stayed steady and warm. Jace leaned back, eyes closing for a second, then opened again. "You ever sleep under stars?" Keela, she nodded. Soft smile. First one, since she arrived. "Stars are song for my people. They guide our dreams." He smiled too. "Maybe tomorrow the sky will be clear. You can show me your star songs." She looked at him confused but not afraid anymore. Maybe she thought just maybe this human was not like the rest. Maybe the trap had caught more than one soul. Maybe it had caught a beginning. Human and alien heartbeat. The sky cleared the next morning. Soft blue light touched the treetops and birds called out like they were singing to welcome peace. Kayla stepped outside for the first time since. The trap, her bare feet touched the damp ground. Her injured ankles still wrapped but stronger. Now her wings stretched slowly. The left one still sore but healing. Jace stood nearby, watching her silently. He didn't speak or move too fast. He knew she needed space. Her eyes scanned the forest like a hawk, sharp and alert, but her body had relaxed more than before. She was no longer just a trapped creature. Now she was something more awake and aware. She turned toward him and nodded, small but honest. "Thank you, Jace." He raised his eyebrows, a little surprised at her words. "You're welcome." Kayla, she walked around the cabin, slowly breathing in the air, her silver hair catching sunlight, her skin glowing faintly. Her presence felt like magic in the middle of the wild. Jace had seen many strange things during his time with the outer patrols, but nothing like her. He asked gently, "You remember how far from your people?" Kayla looked up toward the sky, then to the distant mountains barely visible past the trees. "Storm, take me far. Maybe 3-day fly. Maybe more fly." "Huh. Wish I could do that," he said, smiling. She tilted her head. "Wings are not just fly. They feel wind. Sky danger even." Love, Jace blinked. "You can feel love with wings." She nodded. "Wings tell heart things before mind knows." He looked at her carefully, her words strange but honest. He wondered what her wings felt now, standing here beside him alone and unguarded. Kayla walked to a tree and placed her hand on the bark. Eyes closed. She whispered something, in her language, maybe a prayer, maybe just a thought. The forest wind moved around her like it was listening. Jace stayed quiet, letting her be. He felt like watching something sacred and rare. After some time, she turned back and asked, "You live alone. Why no other human?" Jace sat on a log near the cabin. He stared at the ground, then said, "People lie, cheat, steal, kill. Sometimes they do worse. They wear smiles while breaking things inside you." He paused and then looked at her. "I left before I became like them, before I lost the part that still cared." Kayla looked at him not with pity, but understanding. She walked to him and sat beside him. Not too close, but not far either. "My people say pain shapes the strongest wings," she said, soft. He gave a small smile, then asked, "What shapes yours?" She didn't answer right away, then whispered, "Loss." The word hung in the air like fog between them. She looked at his hands. Rough, strong, but not cruel. She saw the knife on his belt, the scars on his fingers, the quiet behind his eyes. You fighter, before she asked. He nodded. Used to be good at it too, until one mission went wrong and I lost someone close. Stopped caring after that. Just kept surviving. Keela understood loss. Hers was a sister lost in the raid, a wing torn from sky. Never seen again. Her people scattered, her tribe hidden deep underground, and she had flown too far too fast, and the storm took her. But now here she was, sitting with a human who had every reason to turn her in or walk away. And instead, he gave her warmth, food, safety. She touched her chest where her heartbeat was soft and steady. Then, without thinking, she reached out and placed her hand over his heart. He froze, not in fear, but in surprise. Her skin was cool like moonlight, but her touch was warm, like morning sun. Your heart same beat like mine, she said slowly. Jace looked down at her hand, then at her face. What does that mean? She smiled, tiny and bright. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. He laughed a little for the first time in weeks. Not a big laugh, but real. Well, I guess we're both strange now, he said. Kayla pulled her hand back gently and stood again. Wings shifting slightly. Sky will call me soon when Wing is healed. I must go back. I figured, he said, looking at the horizon. But now, I don't want to go, she said softly. Not sure why. Just feel it. He stood too, brushing dust off his pants. Then said, You can stay as long as you want. No cages here. Only fire, tea, and broken humans. She smiled again, but her eyes looked sad like the forest already missed her before she even left. Then the ground sensor beeped once, short and sharp. Both turned to look. Jace moved fast to the cabin screen, the motion alert pulsing near the south tree line. Not a beast, not a deer. Multiple signatures moving slow and steady. Keela came behind him, eyes narrow, voice cold. They find me. Jace grabbed his rifle, checked its charge, looked at her and said, Then they find me too. The raid. The sun disappeared behind the trees, and shadows stretched long across the forest. The wind became still too still. Jace stared at the blinking red dots on his screen. 5 moving figures southside near the waterline, trained steady steps. Not animals, not lost hikers. These were hunters. Keela stood behind him, wings pulled tight against her back. Her breath quiet but tense. Her silver eyes cold like ice under moonlight. She knew who they were. She had seen their kind before. Masked soldiers. With black suits and red symbols, they took her friends. Her sister, her elders. They never spoke. They only took. Jace grabbed 2 more weapons from under the floor. A shock pistol and a modified drone. He handed Kayla a thin rod glowing faintly. This activates a temporary shield. It only lasts 10 seconds. Use it if they get too close. She took the rod without a word. Her fingers steady even though her heart beat fast. This was no longer a forest. This was a battlefield. Jace opened a small hatch in the wall and released the drone. It flew silently through the trees, eyes blinking blue, sending him real-time images. They were close, too close. 4 of them moved in a line while one circled wide carrying a scanner. They know someone is here. He whispered. Kayla looked at him and said, They come for me, not for you. Leave me, run. I fight alone. He turned sharply, his voice firm, but calm. No, you're not alone. Not anymore. She blinked slowly, her throat tight, but she said nothing more. Jace moved outside, placing traps, silent ones, pressure plates and nets that fired stun rounds. He had used them before against wild beasts. But now they were set for something worse. Kayla climbed to the roof, her wings still weak but strong enough for short glides. She held the energy rod close, her body hidden behind the edge of the metal structure. Her mind focused, every sense alert. The first explosion came fast. One of the hunters stepped on a trap. A net launched upward, wrapping around his legs. Sparks flew as he dropped, trying to cut himself free. The others spread out weapons, raised red lights blinking on their helmets. Jace fired first. One shot hit a tree as warning. The second grazed a helmet. The third found a chest plate. The man fell backward, twitching. They returned. Fire beams of blue light cut through the air, burning small holes in the wood and dirt. One blast hit the edge of the cabin, shaking it. Keela leapt from the roof, wings opening just enough to glide. She landed behind one of them and activated the shield. Her rod hit his back. The shock sent him collapsing in silence before he could scream. Another turned and saw her, raised his gun, but she was already spinning low, dodging, sliding behind a tree. His shot missed and her rod struck his leg. He screamed and dropped, but not fast enough. One more hunter came from the side and grabbed her wing, pulling hard. She screamed in pain, falling to one knee. Jace heard it and ran from cover, shooting at the attacker, who turned and fired back. The shot hit Jace in the shoulder and he stumbled but kept moving. He fired again, this time hitting the man in the neck. The helmet sparked and the body dropped. Kayla stood, shaking her wing, injured again but not broken. She looked at Jace, blood soaking through his shirt, but he still held the rifle steady. His eyes locked on her, not on the pain, just one left. The scanner man. He was smart. He had stayed out of range now. He moved silently from behind the trees, trying to flank. Kayla closed her eyes and listened. Wind through leaves, water near rocks, heartbeat of the forest. She turned quickly and threw the energy rod like a spear. It hit the man's scanner pack and exploded with a crack of light. He screamed, falling backward. Then everything was still. No more red lights. No more footsteps, only smoke, and the soft hum of the forest returning. Jace dropped to one knee, breathing hard, blood dripping down his arm. Kayla rushed to him, tearing part of her cloth to wrap the wound. "Why you fight?" she asked, voice full of something more than fear, something deeper. He looked at her through blurry eyes. "Because you were worth fighting for." She stared at him. No words came, just silence, heavy and filled with meaning. She pressed her forehead to his gently and whispered, "You, no longer broken." He laughed weakly. Maybe not anymore. They sat there together beside the firelight of burning leaves and cracked helmets. Not as strangers, not as prisoner and captor, but as something new, something born from fear and forged in fire. Not food. Something more. The forest was quiet again. Birds slowly returned, calling through the trees like nothing had happened. Smoke still hung in the air. Light and fading, the bodies of the fallen hunters were buried deep in the soil by Jace and Keela. Side by side, they worked silently. Not speaking much, but every movement said enough. Jace's shoulder was wrapped tightly, his arm stiff but still usable. Kayla checked the wound every few hours, placing cool herbs and humming softly a tune from Her People, a healing song. She said that helped the heart and mind more than the flesh. He sat outside near the fire, sharpening a blade while she cleaned her wings, carefully dipping them in a small pool beside the cabin. Her wing was healing better now. Not perfect, but whole enough to fly again. "Soon, you should leave soon," Jace said softly. "Not because I want you gone, but because more might come." Kayla paused, her hand in the water, her eyes on his face. Not sad, just calm. She asked, "You want me leave?" He didn't answer right away, then looked up and said, "No." That one word hung between them, full of weight and truth. She stood and walked to him, her bare feet soft on the ground, her silver skin glowing in the afternoon light. "You saved me many times," she said. "More than just trap. You saved my soul." He looked at her confused, but she smiled gently and continued, "I thought humans were monsters, Thought they only eat, destroy, trade, hurt. But you showed me not all are same. He gave a short breath of a laugh. You thought I'd eat you. Huh. She nodded. Yes, I thought you eat me, but not with teeth, with eyes, with hands. With need, Jace blushed and looked away, unsure what to say. Kayla knelt beside him, her eyes meeting his. You looked at me like I was real, like I had name, not meat, not prize. You listened. He set the blade down, his heart pounding too loud in his chest. He tried to speak but only managed Kayla. She leaned closer, her voice almost a whisper. When I said, "You not broken," I meant your spirit. I see it glowing. Again. He looked into her eyes, saw the stars he had long forgotten, the hope. The quiet power. The spark. I don't know what this is, he said gently. I never had anything like it before. Me too, she whispered softly. She reached forward and touched his cheek, her fingers warm, not cold, not scared. In my people, when two hearts beat same rhythm, we call it soul wind, soul wind. He repeated, liking the word. She smiled again and said, it means even if wind takes us apart, the heart still remembers. Jace took her hand into his and held it not tight, not weak, just enough. Then the sensor blinked once again, but this time green, not ready. Small drone hovered above, slowly coming down near the fire. It was not from the hunters, but from above, a neutral signal marked in blue and silver. Jace picked it up and read the message. His eyes widened slightly. Then he looked at her. Your people, they're looking for survivors. They sent out search drones. She stood fast, wings twitching, eyes full of sudden emotion. They found me, she whispered barely. He nodded. They will come soon, maybe in a day or less. She looked around the cabin, the trees, the earth, the fire, the place that became her safety. Her second sky. She looked at him again and stepped close. I must go. Jace, they are my blood. They need me. I know, he said, I would never stop you, but I want to return, she said firmly. When wing is strong and skies are clear, I want to come back here. He swallowed hard, then smiled small. Then, I'll keep the fire going. She leaned in and kissed his forehead softly, a moment of warmth, a promise. Then she stepped back, lifted her wings and flew just above the trees, not far. Not fast, just high enough to see the sky again. Her silver form vanishing into the clouds like a dream, returning home. Jace stood there long after she was gone, eyes on the sky, heart heavy but not broken. She was not food, she was not prey. She was something more, and maybe, just maybe, so was he now. Her choice. The fire crackled softly inside the cabin. Jace sat alone, staring at the half-carved wooden figure in his hands. It was the shape of a wing, not perfect, not smooth, but close enough to remind him of her days had passed since Kayla flew. Away, the forest felt quieter now. Too quiet. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was hollow. He still checked the sensors every morning, still cooked 2 portions by habit, still placed the second cup of tea near the corner. Even though no one sat there anymore, he told himself he was fine, that she had returned to her people where she belonged. But his eyes always drifted to the sky, hoping. Every night he dreamed of her silver skin glowing in the starlight, her voice soft like leaves, her hand resting on his chest and whispering soul wind. One evening, as the sun dipped low, the sky turned a soft gold with streaks of violet. He stood outside listening to the wind. He closed his eyes, breathing in the scent of pine and ash when he heard it. Wings, not birds, not insects, something larger, familiar. The air shifted around him, and when he opened his eyes, she was there, hovering above the trees, graceful and strong. Her wings fully healed her body, no longer trembling, her face calm but her eyes full of emotion. Kayla landed gently in front of him, not saying a word at first. Her breath heavy from the flight. Her gaze locked on his like nothing else in the world mattered. Jace didn't speak either. He only stepped forward slowly, unsure if this was real or just another cruel dream. She broke the silence with a whisper. I told them I had to come back. They said, no, I left anyway. His heart beat faster. You came back. Yes, she said simply. Why? He asked softly, voice rough from holding in too much. She stepped closer because I chose you. He stared at her, blinking, not trusting his own ears. I chose this forest, this cabin, this fire, this man, she said gently. But your people, he said confused. They are strong. They will heal without me. But my heart, it did not stop beating your rhythm. I tried to fly away, but the wind kept turning me back toward you. He laughed a little, not out of humor, but out of shock and joy, and something he didn't know how to name. She reached into her pouch and pulled out a small crystal blue with a soft pulse of light. She placed it in his hand. This is sky glass from my mountain. When two hold it together, they make bond not by rule, not by law, but by feeling. He looked at the crystal, then at her. What does it mean? It means I stay, she said, eyes shining. I stay with you, if you will have me. He didn't speak. He only stepped forward and pulled her into his arms. Not rough, not fast, but gently, like he was holding something precious. His arms around her back, her wings folding around him like a second embrace. I want you here, he whispered always. They stood there as the sky darkened, stars blinking into view one by one, the forest alive around them. But in that moment, only two heartbeats mattered. Later, that night, they sat by the fire again, sharing root tea and stories Kayla told him about her people, how they flew between storms, how they sang to the stars, how her sister would have liked him but would have warned her too. He told her about the war, about his brother, who never came back, about the promise he once made to never trust again, and how she somehow broke that without even trying. She laughed softly and leaned on his shoulder, her wing brushing his arm. You still sharp, she said, looking at the carving, smiled, not as sharp as your tongue. They laughed together, not loud, just enough. When the fire burned low, they walked outside, looked up at the stars, and she pointed. That is my home. Far past those lights, and now I am your home, he said without meaning, till she looked at him and nodded, not saying a word. Then she reached for his hand and placed it on her chest. Now feel the rhythm. He closed his eyes and listened, her heartbeat steady, warm, strong. He placed her hand on his chest. Now yours, she whispered. They matched beat for beat, two. Worlds two, souls one rhythm, and far above the sky, the stars blinked like they approved.